Welcome to Rich Conversations. Let's talk about Pete Carroll. So he was coach of the Seattle Seahawks. He also coached the USC Trojans. He also coached the New England Patriots and New York Jets for a little bit. Now, I would say of the four coaches that I've mentioned as big influences in my life, Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, and Phil Jackson especially. Pete Carroll is probably the one that I haven't followed quite as much. But Pete Carroll, now I'm holding this USC football in my hands. This is probably like 12 years old, this football. But one of my college teams is USC because I'm from Wisconsin, but I didn't go to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, so I'm not necessarily tied to any particular football team. So I'm kind of like a free agent in a way. And like I've kind of talked about in the previous episode, where I'm not interested in very good. I'm interested in excellence. And unfortunately, the Wisconsin Badgers, they don't compete for national championships. I would love them to, and I still support them, but I'm also going to be a fan of USC and the Alabama Crimson Tide because they're all about championships and competing at the highest level, because that's how I see myself. So USC. Now Pete Carroll's biggest idea that I've taken from him is have a personal philosophy that you live by. He's written about how when he coached, now he's all about enthusiasm, right? He's an enthusiastic individual, and that's contagious. And when you're coached by someone who's so positive and so optimistic, if we just do the right things, if we compete all the time and do what we need to do, we sure can do it, right? That is amazing. But besides his enthusiasm, he's also big with having a personal philosophy. And he felt like his failures with the New York Jets and New England Patriots was because he didn't quite have his personal philosophy figured out yet. And then once he took a step back from those positions, he really thought about it. He really sat down and really spent time reflecting, and he came up with a personal philosophy for himself. And he brought that to University of Southern California and the Trojans, and they performed very well. Like 2 or 3 national championships, kind of the epicenter of college football. And then he went to Seattle and coached in 2 Super Bowls, won 1, and has been kind of a pillar of competitive professional football for quite some time. But the biggest thing I've taken away from Pete Carroll is have a personal philosophy that you can rely on, you fall back on, and you know who you are and how you're approaching the world. For my personal philosophy, you have to find it yourself. You can't look externally for a personal philosophy. It has to come from within. You can certainly borrow from everything, which I do. And for me, my personal philosophy is very rooted in nature. Kind of flow with nature. And this is through much reading in other philosophies, but observing the world, observing nature, observing ecosystems, biology, physics, and aligning myself, science of the universe, right? Aligning myself and my decisions in a way that is within the flow of nature. A question I'll often ask myself if I'm about to make a decision is this natural or unnatural? And you can apply this to food. You can apply this to how to live life. For example, this phone here, based on evolutionary biology of the Homo sapiens genius or species, whatever, us as humans, right? We didn't evolve to have this, to be staring at the screen all the time and to be constantly looking at the screen and absorbing our life and personal self-worth within it. That's a very unnatural thing to me. And I've said on the podcast before, I believe humans are either meant to be in nature or with other people, because that's, again, aligned in that philosophy. But I've been following Pete Carroll, and best wishes to him. It's kind of a lot like my grandma, who's 93, and just a lot of your quality of life is heavily determined by your attitude and being positive. So, and you can see that with Pete Carroll, certainly. So take that with you, be positive, have a good attitude when approaching things, and also try to find that personal philosophy of yours. And you can then instill that philosophy in every single decision you make and everything you approach. And you'll live a more fulfilled life that way.